All right, so today we're diving into Juz 17 of the Quran, and I gotta say, I'm really curious to see what we uncover.
Lots to explore, that's for sure. It's a section packed with stories, teachings, and those universal themes that get you thinking.
That's what I love about these deep dives. You never know what's going to resonate. Like, I was immediately drawn to the title of Surah Al-Anbiya, the Prophets.
Yeah, it grabs your attention.
It does. But then reading further, verses 1 to 3 really struck me. It's like people being distracted from what's truly important. That's something we've all experienced, right?
It's that age-old struggle, isn't it? Getting caught up in the day-to-day, kind of tuning out those bigger questions, the things that really matter.
Exactly. And the Surah even points out how this heedlessness, as it's called, actually prevents people from grasping the truth.
It creates a barrier, almost like you're not really present to hear the message in the first place. And it's not just some abstract idea. Verse 8 reminds us even the prophets were human, dealing with their own doubts and struggles.
That makes their message even more powerful, though, right?
Absolutely. They weren't immune to the challenges of being human, yet they were still entrusted with sharing these profound truths.
And despite that, you still have people dismissing their words. Like verse 5 mentions some folks calling it a bunch of false dreams, accusing the prophets of making things up. It feels like a pretty human reaction to the unknown, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's like this instinctive resistance to anything that challenges what we think we know, especially if it makes us uncomfortable.
And isn't it fascinating how that pattern repeats itself throughout history?
It makes you think, right, like, are we any different today? How do we react when someone presents an idea that challenges our deeply held beliefs?
Food for thought, for sure. Okay, so moving on, verse 10 subtly introduces this book, which I'm assuming refers to the Quran itself.
Right on the money.
Yeah.
It's subtly weaving in the revelation of the Quran as part of this bigger narrative about prophets and divine communication.
Which makes the next part really hit home. The verse is about civilizations rising and falling, almost like a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that history has a way of repeating itself, isn't it?
And that each generation faces similar choices, similar temptations, and ultimately similar consequences.
Okay, so verses 16, 18, things get pretty deep, pretty fast. It says the universe wasn't created in play. What does that even mean in the context of Islamic belief?
So at its core, it's emphasizing the divine purpose behind creation. It's this idea that the universe exists for a reason. It's not just some random accident or cosmic game.
So intentionality versus just pure chance.
Exactly. And this intentionality is directly tied to the existence of one God, Allah, who is the ultimate source and creator of everything.
And that brings us to the prophets themselves, many of whom are mentioned throughout these verses. Like there's this recurring theme of them facing rejection, even persecution for preaching about one God.
It's hard not to see the parallels to Muhammad's own experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just him. Think about other prophets across different faiths and times. Often the ones calling for a singular, all-powerful God face the most resistance. Verse 26 really jumped out at me. It directly addresses the idea of God having a son.
Yeah, a key distinction between Islam and Christianity, for sure. While Christians believe in Jesus as the Son of God, Islam emphasizes that God is absolutely one, indivisible, with no partners or offspring.
And it reminds me of those theological debates that have gone on for centuries, not just between different religions, but even within different branches of the same faith.
It really highlights the importance of approaching these texts with an open mind, but also a critical one, right? Because interpretations can differ, and understanding the reasoning and historical context behind them can enrich our understanding so much more.
So it's not about one interpretation being right or wrong.
It's about recognizing the complexity, the layers of meaning, and the richness that diverse perspectives can bring. It deepens our understanding, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Okay, so moving a little deeper into Surah Al-Anbiya, verses 30-33, talking about the heavens and the earth, like that imagery of them being a joined entity before being separated. And then the part about mountains keeping the earth from shaking, is that meant literally or metaphorically?
That's a question that sparked a lot of debate, even among scholars.
Right.
Some lean towards a more literal interpretation, but generally, in Islam, the natural world is seen as a reflection of God's power and order.
So even if it's metaphorical, it's still making a point about.
It's an invitation to contemplate the wonders of creation, the forces at work, to find that sense of awe and wonder.
Like when you're standing on a mountaintop looking out at everything, it does give you that wow feeling no matter what you believe.
Exactly. And throughout history, you see how different cultures have found that sense of the divine in nature, in his beauty and power.
Okay, so then we get to verses 34, 35, and death enters the picture. Kind of a heavy topic, but also a universal one,
Right, and it's not presented as the end, but more of a transition.
which ties into Judgment Day, right?
Exactly. Verse 47 talks about the scales of justice, where even the tiniest deeds are weighed.
So every action, no matter how small,
It
matters.
really makes you think about those everyday choices, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like every single one has weight, has consequence, because this life is preparation for what comes next.
Wow. Okay, so speaking of accountability, the story of Abraham in verses 48, 73, that's a powerful example.
Definitely. Abraham is such a central figure in Islamic tradition, not just for his unwavering faith in one God, but his courage to challenge what everyone around him believed.
Even his own family, which couldn't have been easy.
Right, and that's what makes him such a powerful example. Staying true to your beliefs, even when it's hard, even when it means going against the grain, that takes incredible strength.
No kidding. So moving on, we meet a few other prophets, right? Noah, David, Solomon. It's like a highlight reel of their struggles and triumphs.
And each story reinforces those central messages of faith and perseverance, even in the face of adversity. And what I find so fascinating is how these stories, they're rooted in specific times and places,
Yeah.
but they still resonate with that universal human experience, that search for meaning, the challenges of staying true to what you believe, the hope for something beyond this life.
It's a good reminder that for all our differences, there are some things that connect us all. So now we shift gears to Surah al-Hajj, the pilgrimage. And right off the bat, we're hit with this incredibly vivid description of Judgment Day.
It's like a movie scene, right? The earth trembling, stars falling, that sense of awe and magnitude.
It definitely makes you think about the bigger picture.
This life, with all its ups and downs, it's just one chapter in a much, much larger story.
And those choices we were just talking about, they
Yeah.
suddenly feel a lot more significant, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Knowing that everything has meaning, everything has consequence, it changes your perspective.
You know, verses 8:14 really got me thinking. There's that part criticizing those who dispute about Allah without knowledge.
Oh, yeah. That's a powerful message. It's like a call to approach matters of faith with genuine curiosity, a desire to truly understand.
So not just blind faith, but
Engage with it on a deeper level. Don't
Yeah.
just accept things at face value, but ask questions, seek knowledge, because that's where true understanding lies.
okay, so another recurring theme, this idea of submission, which is literally what Islam means. And verses 77, 78 talk about striving to live according to divine will, but that can't just be about blindly following rules, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Submission, in this sense, isn't about blind obedience. It's about consciously choosing to align your life with what you believe to be the divine will.
So striving to live in a way that reflects those beliefs.
Exactly. Think of it as a constant effort to embody those principles in your actions, to strive for that moral excellence, to make choices that reflect your deepest values.
So it's not passive, it's active.
It's a continuous journey of learning, reflecting, and striving to become a better version of yourself.
It's a pretty powerful way to think about faith, don't you think? It's not just about what you believe, but how you live your life.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond any one religion or philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? It speaks to that innate human desire to live a meaningful and ethical life.
It's amazing, though, isn't it? How these ideas of making conscious choices, of really striving to live out your beliefs, it just keeps coming up throughout the Quran.
It's woven into the fabric, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough to just passively accept things, right? You're called to question, to seek understanding, and then to actually embody those truths in your life.
And as we're wrapping up Juz 17 here, I'm struck by how universal these themes are. Like, they resonate on a human level no matter what your background is. So what's your biggest takeaway after this whole deep dive?
For me, it goes back to that idea of alignment, aligning your actions with your beliefs. The Quran emphasizes this again and again. It's not just about believing in one God, but living that belief every single day.
Through acts of kindness, striving to make the world a better place.
Exactly. Recognizing that our choices have real weight, real consequences, not just in this life, but the next. It's a powerful concept.
It really is. And it speaks to that deep human longing to live a life of purpose, a life that matters. Well, this has been an incredible journey through Juz 17, and I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today.
The pleasure was all mine, truly. Hopefully this sparks even more exploration, more deep thinking for everyone listening.
And to everyone tuning in, we hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the messages within Juz 17. Keep those questions coming, keep seeking those answers, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.